times have changed so dramatically. I mean, modern history, well, we're living with it. But that was so totally different. I mean, some of the earliest memories that I can recall was Father coming back with his old haversack from the First World War with a lot of small birds in there, probably thrushes and skylarks and lapwings and things like that. And that was our food, and we lived largely on rabbits. I mean, that was the staple diet at that time. Everyone had to be self-sufficient, and times were really hard, and people didn't realise how difficult it was.
Was it a better world?
A more relaxed world, and I think, quite honestly, a more contented world. Yes. Because people knew the limitations. Today, everyone's wanting a bit more.
How would your father have caught those birds?
He shot them with a number 3, a small bore gun.
I heard a story a few years ago, Ivan Misson told me, that people would go out with nets.
Yes, they would.
Throw over the hedges.
Father used to tell me about his boyhood when they used long nets, as they called them. Trandle nets was the local name. He came from Wilburton, just on the edge of the fens. And he said these nets were about 20 feet deep, and they're probably 50 feet across. And you got one on each end, and they'd trail them across the fields. It was larks they were catching them more than anything, skylarks, and they were sending them to London for a few pence a score.
And now we hardly see.
He said if you caught a covey of partridges, you were made.
Yes.
Because they were making more money at night poaching than what they were
in the day.
For a day's work. The Prince of Wales stood there, where Mr. Hannett lives, and there was a very deep well there, because I can remember that distinctly. It was a typical picture book well with the top over it, and the old windlass on there. And I can remember you had to drop the buckets down bottom upwards. You dropped it down bottom up, so when it got to the water, it hit the water and scooped full. If you dropped it down normally, it would just float on top of the water.
Right.
And it was a very deep well. They called it Rockaby there.
There was a shed that had Rockaby Farm on it.
Yes, but they called it Rockaby. I think they came from Australia, these people. I forget the name now, but they actually filled the well up, which was rather tragic.
Wasn't there a pub somewhere up where Annie Harley lives?
That was the Queen's Head, and that's why the roadway between High Street that goes through to Pettit's Lane is called Queen's Way. It was the Queen's Head pub. And there was another one where the 2 bungalows set opposite the village hall, there's 2 bungalows set back.
Yes.
That was the Rose and Crown.
Rose and Crown.
And then there was the 5 Bells, of course. And the old 3 Horseshoes, which we all know about, where Mr. Van Oostrom lives.
Were they pubs as we know them today, or were they more sitting room type?
No, I think they were pubs, and that was the only entertainment there were in the village. The people went round to the boozer at night, and they kept tabs on all the village history and goings on. And they had their favourites, which one they went to. I mean, several went to the 3 Horseshoes. They wouldn't come to the Black Horse, but when the 3 Horseshoes closed, they came to the Black Horse.
Right.
They didn't like the beer era, they used to say. The community was very closely knit then, and if people had a surplus in the garden, vegetables or anything, they would share them round, and Sunday mornings they probably went to church. They had to go to church in some instances, but they would visit relatives because most of the village was interrelated.
Yes.
And they would visit round their brothers and sisters and parents or whatever it was, and it was a regular practice to visit on a Sunday morning. And if they were short of a few potatoes or a few cabbages or whatever it was, well, it was shared round. They would be sent down, and everyone helped each other. There was 15 farms in the village. I don't remember the 15 because Edinburgh Farm had closed when I was younger. But there was actually 14 farms that I can remember, and we've got 2 actually viable farming units left in the parish. Scotland Farm and Rectory Farm are the only 2. I don't know about Rectory Farm.
Mm.
And Scotland Farm is supported by
Yes, industry.
industrial, yes. Drayton. That's what the village was known as, Drayton. It was not Dry Drayton, but it was always referred to as Drayton.
Yes.
Like Lulworth was referred to as Lola. Madingley was Madley. There was no Dingley, it was Madley. And Swavesey was always Swasey. I mean, there was no ver in Swavesey. It was local dialect.